Hello and welcome back to Buckle Up. I'm Harry King and this is a BMW Z4, basically a rip-off of the Mazda MX-5. It does all the same stuff, just with a more extended bonnet, but let's see if it's any good. So, let's start with the exterior, and here at the front we can see that compared to the Z3, this car has been well and truly bangled. At this point, for those of you in the comments who have noticed, this is a 2003 car, and yes, this is a facelift bumper. So it's had a bumper replacement. It should have some round fog lights down here that would match with the Z8. It instead has these little slimline numbers right down here in the bumpers that sort of look like teeth. Otherwise, you've got the kind of classic Bangle, sort of slightly droopy eyes in the headlights, and then the bonnet almost seems like it has a hump in it, but this is where you find probably the reason you would choose this over something like an MX-5, which is this has a straight 6. It's 2.2 litres, but it has a straight 6. Before we go down the side, let's have a look at that. So under here, in pre-2006 models, we find BMW's famed M54 straight 6. In this case, a 2.2 litre variant. You could also get the 2.5, and in both cases, the engine is over square. Right, to the side. Here at the side, we can see really the full majesty of Bangle's design. A man who was good at his job, but also lots of people didn't like how he did it. But there's lots of things like these parallel lines from the bonnet and the crease here, and the way this curves around into the spoiler. It's all very well done, but then the final product for some people is just... You can see it's a sort of cab backwards design, but it's not as cab backwards as the later model. You do sort of sit more in the middle of the car. Nice little detail. The side repeater for the indicator is actually hidden by the BMW badge. This one is a soft top. I'll insert some footage of that going up and down now. No, it's fine. It's actually fine. It's okay. I wasn't eating. Go grease lightning, you're burning down a quarter mile. Grease lightning, go grease lightning. Now round here at the back you do retain some of the really sweet Roadster lines that you also got on the Z3, though actually a more muscular back end that I think suits the performance of this car better. I would just like to point out though, these roll hoops that look hideously dated now, though I do quite like these. They're almost quad, I mean they're kind of quad lights, like an old 60s Roadster, but then you've got this line here, this sort of angle of Bangle, which modernizes it for 2003, if that makes sense. There's no button to release the boot back here, so I'll have to attempt it with the key.
No.
No, that won't work either. It's broken. Where you will find really quite a large boot. I suspect that's because this might have been aimed maybe more at the golfists. So there's a big wide space here where you could fit in all of your sticks, and then actually you do have a sort of liftable bit here where if the roof's up you get a tiny bit more space, but it's maybe 20 litres more space, and it's right at the top of the boot where it's already curved anyway. So not sure how useful that is, but it is, you know, it's a nod to the consumer. But honestly, compared to most of the cars in the segment, this is cavernous. This is going to take all of your luggage. I mean, this will take two people's luggage, no problem. Let's see if it'll take two people, no problem. So welcome to the salubrious interior of the BMW Z4. As you can see, I've just got acres of room in here. So much space. This is my foot fully on the brake pedal. As you can see, my knee's almost up under the steering wheel. I think you'll enjoy this car more if you're... Well, I'm 5'11", let's put it that way, and I don't have long legs. So if you like having your knees bent when you're driving, this is the car for you. Otherwise, the steering wheel is not centered. It's to the left of me, which is a sort of BMW thing that they do. But the pedals are just about in the right place, but they're in a sort of a Roadster layout. So if you're used to cars like this, basically the clutch and the brake are either side of the steering wheel like this, and then the throttle's off to this side, rather than the brake being directly in front of you, like you might be used to in a front-wheel drive car. But you do have a dead pedal as well, so your feet can be evenly spaced while you're driving. Practicality. You have some little cubby holes with soft openings. This one's, well, your 12-volt socket and an ashtray, or what was an ashtray. There's a over-damped glove box, which is big enough for an owner's manual, but not much else. You have little push-out cup holders here at the side, but they're much too large for this, but they're also quite small and flimsy, so I'm not sure that I would trust them. I certainly wouldn't trust them with an open-topped drink. And then you also have a sort of awkward to reach one here, where you've got space for your Nokia, or your Parker pen, or all of your CD collection. Do you remember 2003? It was such a great time. I was 6. Other things in the cabin: air vents, radio, and then an indicator that works properly. This one still works properly. It stays up. That's good, isn't it? But I think everything else I want to talk about in this car, I'll talk about on the drive. Okay, so driving the BMW Z4, it's a proper hunkered down roadster. I'm low to the ground here, just about as low as you can get in something like this. The bonnet is incredibly long though, which makes turning out of these sorts of corners a little bit tricky. Though not as long as the later generation model, so actually not that bad. I think I am just going to pop the windows up to try and help with the wind noise a bit. So please forgive me for my sins. The steering is fantastic. It's so direct, even just the tiniest little wobbles. There's a slight lightness on centre, I'll say, but there's no deadness. It's just right on centre. It's a little light, but then it weights up into the corner beautifully, and the front just goes round. It just goes where you point it. Now, I should stress this is on public roads. I've not had the opportunity to drive this on track and on limit. I don't know if that's still true, but the fact of the matter is, at road sensible speeds, this is going to be a hell of a car to drive. With that being said, most of these cars were delivered with larger wheels than this as standard. This has 16-inch wheels, which means that's quite a lot of sidewall. But the chassis on this is incredibly stiff, just completely rigid, and so is the suspension. And that means that if you don't have those sidewalls, then really you're in for quite a rough ride. The gearbox is nice, it's notchy. The pulleys may be a little longer than I would like in a car like this, but it's quite a rewarding gearbox to move through, and the gears are nice and short. I can get into fifth at 30 miles an hour and drive around without chundering. So it feels nice and zippy up to road, the speed limit. With that being said, 0 to 60 is 7.7 seconds on this 2.2 litre model, which is around the same time as a 2 litre Mazda MX-5 NC. This has more power. This has 174 brake horsepower and 155 pound-feet of torque, but it is also heavier. It's 200 kilos heavier, which does make a difference. So just a tiny bit faster than an MX-5. I've got to say, while the turning and stuff probably is better, like the handling, the grip I should say, maybe is better than MX-5, it's got bigger tyres and stuff. It's maybe slightly less playful. I feel like I'd have to push this a lot harder to make it playful. It's completely welded to the road at sensible speeds, and the MX-5 isn't as much. You can kind of push it about a bit and have a bit more fun at safe speeds. So maybe if you're only ever going to do road driving, I would consider something with slightly skinnier tyres. But this just grips and goes. It's honestly, it's a lovely little chassis. Now for me, the legroom in this cabin, or the way your legs are in this cabin, I'm not sure that I could live with it. I guess it depends on how your posture is when you're driving. But with me, my natural inclination is, if my knees are bent, my legs splay outwards, and there's not a lot of room in this footwell for that. and the room that there is, the window controls are right next to where my right leg goes. So I'm actually losing out on extra space I could have. But I have more space in the MX-5, which might be the first time ever that anybody's ever said that. I have more space in the MX-5. I'm not uncomfortable though, I just don't know if I would choose this driving position when there are other options out there. So I want to stress this is specific to me, because Rob has sat in it and he says he's fine, and obviously Rob's 2 and a bit inches taller than I am, so it's personal preference. The interior of this cabin is dated. Honestly, the quality, it's probably nicer than an MX-5, but it's got nothing on a modern car at all. This is a lot closer, or even, sorry, this is, yeah, it's not even as nice as a modern mainstream brand interior. So if you're thinking, oh, I'll buy the BMW because it'll have a nice interior, I wouldn't do that. But there, that was, you know, that was hard cornering, under hard throttle, the sort of stuff you shouldn't do, and it just went. And yeah, this steering's magnificent. This is a nice little rise here that I like to sling cars around, and it's just completely hooked up to the road. Yeah, oh, that's glorious. Oh, that's just wonderful. Yeah, you can just feel everything that's going on. The steering wheel's chunky. If you don't like that, you won't like it, but I do. Yeah, good grip around it. And just, yeah, slamming those gears home. I mean, this will give you, it really does give you that Roadster experience. You feel hunkered down, you're in the centre of the car, you're focused in on the road, and you can feel the road beneath you, and you can feel what the steering is doing. I just think, for me personally, I would go for something basically worse. I would go for something with less grip, less power, and just have a bit more of a laugh. But if you're really keen on driving and driving quickly and maybe doing some track days, this will get you closer to that without spending the extra money for a Lotus or a Porsche. This is a step in between the sort of MR2s and MX-5s of this world and where you'll find Porsches and Lotuses. So with that being said, let's go for a conclusion. So, the BMW Z4. It's a very good car. With these wheels, it rides acceptably. It's got loads of grip and a nice engine, nice revvy engine. It's what you want in a Roadster, but I probably wouldn't buy one. I'd buy the MX-5. It's more fun on the road and it's more fun at safe speeds. If you like doing a bit of track work, this could be a good middle ground for you, because it's good on the road and I think it'd be very good on the track as well. There you go. Thank you so much for watching. Please remember to like, comment and subscribe. You can find all of our social media links down in the description. We also have a merch store, and we have Patreon, and we have channel memberships. So that's 3 ways you can go and support us. Pick one of them and do it. Do it now. And with that said, we'll see you next time.